Hello, welcome to your favorite bookish podcast, Fully Booked and Caffeinated. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Heather.
And today we will be discussing and reviewing Insurgent by Veronica Roth. As usual, let's talk about our fuel for this discussion. What are you drinking, Heather?
I have my cup of water and my small glass of cherry Pepsi.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Small glass of cherry
Small
Pepsi.
Glass, yes. Because sometimes I pour like the regular size glasses and then I drink half of it and I give the rest to Eric. So I'm trying to let me just do small glasses.
Okay, so we're portion controlling our soda. Okay. Yeah. I like that.
For the best anyways. I shouldn't even be drinking soda, but it's like my bad habit that I can't kick, you know.
It just takes the edge off.
It does. I'd rather this than like cigarettes or alcohol every day of my life. So
I agree. Or like chewing gum or something.
Oh, mm-hmm. Right.
I'm having a Coke Zero.
Ooh.
In a mini can.
Oh, the mini cans. You know how I feel about the mini cans. I love the mini
cans. But I did get myself a little treat this weekend when I drove to Maryland to get my tattoo. I got a classic from Starbucks, the brown sugar oat milk shaken espresso.
Did you see that Dunkin' is doing like a brown sugar shaken espresso? The Sabrina
I saw
Carpenter.
it.
I haven't tried it, but
I don't love their brown sugar syrup.
Me either.
So I don't think I'm gonna like it.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to ask you about something more important than coffee.
Okay.
Have you gotten your Girl Scout cookies?
No, but my downstairs neighbor's daughter is a Girl Scout, so I will be getting my Girl Scout cookies.
It's time. You got to get them Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
I am.
No, don't worry. I have a personal hookup.
You have a hookup. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be fine.
Eric buys them at the mall, obviously.
Yeah.
Because they sell them there. So I'm almost through my first box of Thin Mints, and I am living. My favorite. This is truly what gets me through seasonal depression.
Girl Scout cookies.
Girl Scout cookies. Because it's not reading this book. Anyway, cheers.
Cheers.
Harsh. Okay.
On that note,
let's dive in. Okay, so this is the second book in the Divergent series. And since we talked about Veronica Roth on our Divergent episode, I'm just going to give you some facts about this book and the movie.
Okay.
And then we'll jump right in.
That we didn't watch.
That we did not rewatch for this episode.
Because it wasn't anywhere. You had to buy it to rent it. I'm like, listen, I could have spent the $2.99, but did I want to? Not necessarily.
Absolutely not. And it's one of those movies that should always be streaming somewhere. Like Agreed. Twilight. Like, why is it not anywhere? And we pay for how many subscriptions and it's not on any platform.
And Twilight is now streaming, by the way.
Oh, I know. I was thinking about watching it the other day, and then I was like, no.
I like myself too much.
My brain can't rot that badly. So, anywho, this book was published in 2012. It won Favorite Young Adult Fantasy and Science Fiction and Author of 2012 in the Goodreads Choice Awards. It was also nominated at the Children's Choice Book Awards for Teen Book of the Year and Author of the Year.
Goodreads was a thing in 2012?
Yeah, I mean, just because we didn't know about it doesn't mean that it didn't exist. Hold on.
When did Goodreads... I mean, that's fine. Well and dandy. I just didn't know that it was real at that point in time.
It was created in 2006, Heather.
Oh, I was still in high school. Holy poop.
I was planning my Sweet 16.
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
Gosh.
That's a story for another day. Okay, so the movie. The movie was released in 2015. The budget is estimated at $110 million, and the box office for opening weekend only made $52 million. Yikes.
Ooh.
But altogether, over time and worldwide, it made $297 million.
Wow.
And they didn't get R299, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So Shailene Woodley won the Teen Choice Award and the People's Choice Award for Best Actress in an Action Movie.
Wow. Okay.
I know.
Okay.
I know. Well, I also read a bunch of reviews that were like, this movie was awful, but Shailene Woodley's performance was good.
All right.
And also, Theo James and Shailene Woodley won the Teen Choice Award for Best Lip Lock that year.
Oh, I remember the lip locks. Still the best one is Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams.
I knew you were going to say
Nothing
that. I
will
agree.
ever compare.
I totally agree. So despite all of the money that this made, it has a 29% rating on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and a 58% from viewers.
Yeah, I feel like that probably adds up.
Yeah.
That's probably correct.
All right, so that's all I have for background. You guys know, you've seen the movie, you've probably read the book.
Did I ever speak about this on the podcast that I named my dog after Theo James because I was like obsessed with him?
I'm pretty sure you said this in the Divergent episode.
Yeah,
because I know you've told me before, and I'm pretty sure you said it on the podcast.
I named Theo after Theo James because I was so in love with him.
That is kind of what I'm thinking is the reason that they got like best lip lock and blah blah is because he is so hot. Like,
he is so hot.
You can't not have chemistry with him. He's so hot.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But book 4 is not like movie 4. You know what I'm saying?
No, complete opposites.
Totally different people.
Because even like I'm reading and I'm trying to envision Theo James. I'm like, this doesn't add up, but all right, it's fine.
Especially in the book when she's talking about his like flaws, and I'm like,
what flaws?
What? Theo James doesn't have any.
Non-existent.
I'm sure that he's a very complex person underneath all that hotness. Doesn't even matter. Anyway, okay, so here's our story graph book summary. Fighting for survival in a shattered world. The truth is her only hope. The thrillingly dark sequel to #1 New York Times bestseller Divergent. I have done bad things. I can't take them back, and they are part of who I am. Tris has survived a brutal attack on her former home and family, but she has paid a terrible price. Racked by grief and guilt, she becomes ever more reckless as she struggles to accept her new future. Yet if Tris wants to uncover the truth about her world, she must be stronger than ever, because more shocking choices and sacrifices lie ahead.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, that was so general. That could be talking about any of the books.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it picks up right where we left off.
Yeah.
Tris, for Caleb, Peter, and Marcus get into Amity. They meet up with some other abnegation, and the Amity vote and decide that they're allowed to stay as long as they don't cause any chaos, which obviously lasts about 24 hours.
Just about.
Yeah, if that. Through some eavesdropping, Tris finds out that the reason for the simulation is that abnegation had something that Erudite wants, which I thought we already knew, but I guess Tris didn't know. I don't know. It seems like a kind of stretch that they were out here killing all the abnegation just to get what the secret is. Anyway, we'll get to it. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. So Erudite shows up to take Tris and the gang, and 4 ruins the whole charade.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I was like, 4, we can't relax for
5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
And they have to escape in a frenzy. And most of this book is just people running around in a frenzy.
Yeah, that's an accurate description.
So Tris, 4, Caleb, and Susan escape together and hop on a train with some factionless who want to kill them. But 4 tells them his government name, and they're like, ooh, girl? And Tris is like, huh? So basically, 4 and Tris know nothing about each other, but we're supposed to believe they're in love.
Exactly.
Okay. So the factionless have a hefty army, led by Tobias's mom, Evelyn, who everyone in abnegation thought was dead. So dead, in fact, that she had a funeral.
Yeah.
That the faction attended. And 4 is acting totally chill, not at all guilty about not telling Tris the truth, which he knew. This was so weird.
It's like hypocritical because he gets mad at Tris for like not telling him shit, but he like keeps a lot of secrets from her. And she like calls him out on that too eventually in the book. Yeah. She's like, what do you mean you want me to tell you blah 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 when you won't tell me anything? Like, make it make sense.
Yeah, he is acting like a male, you know?
Acting a fool.
So basically, Evelyn wants the Dauntless, led by 4, to join the factionless and overtake Erudite so they can start a new factionless society. But Triss doesn't trust Evelyn, for good reason, I think, because she was pretending to be dead and creating an army. But it's just driving an even bigger wedge between Four and Triss.
Yeah.
There's one quote I wanted to call out because we literally just talked about this in our last episode, but Triss talks about needing the noise to fall asleep. And she says, "Noise and activity are the refuges of the bereaved and the guilty." So basically, the noise drowns out the need to reflect on your grief or your guilt. And we just talked about this on Remarkably Bright Creatures, but it's just such a common theme and obviously why we can relate to it in real life so hard.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So Four and Triss head off to Candor to meet up with the other Dauntless who didn't turn traitor, and they're immediately arrested for crimes of treason. But Candor has a nice, easy way to see if they're guilty. Truth serum. Now, I don't agree with this faction system, but this is something I can get behind.
I know. I mean, that seems like a great
Nice
way to
and
solve
easy,
everyone's fucking problems, to be honest.
And I'm sure there are rules, but they don't go over the rules. So, like, can someone just hop on Janine and stab some truth serum into her neck?
You would think.
I don't know. Okay, so Triss realizes she can resist the truth serum because she is the most divergent to ever divergent.
Honestly.
But she confesses how she killed Will because she needs to get off her chest. And it's in front of Christina and Four that she's been hiding this huge secret that's been like ripping her apart. And you would think that this is the last time we have to hear about her guilt for killing Will, but you would be wrong. You
would be so wrong. Shows up every 15 pages if I had to make a guesstimate.
That's being generous. It's maybe 11 or 12 pages. You know what I mean?
All right.
Okay, so Erudite and the Dauntless traitors carry out a very suspicious attack on the Candor headquarters led by Eric, the supervillain from Dauntless. I saw online that, you know how people call out like movie mistakes or whatever?
Yeah.
And Eric is just running around even though 2 days before Triss had shot him in the foot. And apparently there's a lot of these kinds of errors in the book too. And Veronica Roth like admitted that she made a lot of continuity errors, but it's because she was developing the books simultaneously.
Oh, okay.
So she didn't like go back and edit the second one after the first one was finished. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
Which I was like, weird, but I don't know. I'm not an author, so whatever. Anywho, so they're trying to round up and execute all of the Dauntless, but of course, Four to the rescue, as usual, and Eric gets captured after he shoots a child in the head, execution style, directly next to Triss.
There was actually a lot in this book that I forgot how graphic it gets, and in like a bad way.
Yeah. And maybe Triss just doesn't have any extra space for this in her brain, but she doesn't keep replaying this over and over. And I feel like this is real fucking traumatic.
Yeah. 100%. And the fact that they like didn't just immediately execute Eric, like he's going to offer you nothing of substance. So just
he's a monster.
Why would you put him on just eye for an eye? Like he just deserves to like just be executed.
Yeah. And he was already a piece of shit before all of this even happened.
Exactly.
So more events occur, and the leader of Candor meets with Janine and decides to turn over all the Divergent because he doesn't really have a choice. But the Dauntless are like, fuck no, we're not doing that. So they decide to leave and head back to the Dauntless compound to take back their home. During that very suspicious attack, a big majority of the Dauntless were injected with a long-range simulation serum. So they don't know the effects of it at first, but they're kind of speculating that, you know, they know that Erudite is trying to develop all these more advanced serums, and they're always trying to one up, you know, they're always working on these serums. So they know that this is going to be bad news. So there's a simulation where Triss goes to find 3 people on a ledge, And they're talking like robots and basically delivering a message that people will keep dying until a Divergent sacrifices themselves to Erudite. So these three people pitch themselves over the ledge. Triss is able to save 2 of the 3, but the message is clear.
Yeah.
Of course, to absolutely no one's surprise, dumb Triss decides to give herself up to the Erudite, knowing she will most likely die in the process.
Mm-hmm.
I am so conflicted about Triss, and I get why this makes her the hero, and it makes her, you know, like multifaceted and stuff, but it's like, it's so hard to balance her need to, like 4 says, be reckless, like recklessly endanger her own life, because not always for a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's like, a risk isn't necessary unless it's actually necessary, you know?
Yeah. I remember, like, in my review when I posted it, I said I forgot how annoying Triss is in this book, because she's so back and forth, and it's like whiplash.
Yeah.
You know, she's either in her feels being all moody, or she's, like you said, being reckless and trying to, like, save the world, and there's just no in between, and she never settles enough in either one to give her any character growth. It's just, like, consistently back and forth, and then it almost makes her unlikable in this book, which is unfortunate because I loved her so much in the first one. And obviously the third one, I'm assuming she redeems herself, because I didn't love this series for no goddamn reason. So when I read it, I'll remember. But yeah, no, and then her, like, selfless decision to just give herself over to Erudite, I was like, your parents died for so much more, and, like, you're just gonna, like, you're kind of just giving in and surrendering. And that doesn't really add up with what the author is trying to portray her as.
Mm-hmm. And she has to reframe that, which she eventually does, but doesn't really exhibit it. But basically she's saying, why wouldn't I sacrifice myself when my parents sacrificed themselves? And then at the end she's like, oh wait, they sacrificed themselves so I could live.
Exactly. Like, she's very much like teeter-tottering on the line of, well, if I die, I die. And then eventually, finally, she's like, I don't want to die. Like, it takes, like, her life almost ending for her to be like, just kidding.
Walking to her execution.
Yeah, just kidding. I don't want this to happen. And it's like, well, what did you expect?
Mm-hmm.
Like, honey buns? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, you know that they have no qualms about killing people.
Exactly.
And I mean,
Janine
we'll get
has
into
a hard
it.
on too for, like, killing you. So
she really does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So did Eric, but he's gone already. And she does it in her relationship with 4 too, which we'll talk about more later. But she goes back and forth from wanting to hide things and deciding it's okay to betray him, and then being upset that he's hiding things. They're both just hypocrites.
100%.
All right. So once she gets to Erudite, it's clear that their aim is to study Triss's brain to come up with a simulation that lasts for a long period of time and works on divergence. And of course, 4 follows her to Erudite because he's stupid and lovesick. And even though they haven't been on the same page with each other or even honest with each other the entire time, he says he would die if she dies.
It's Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, Romeo and Juliet didn't know each other that well either.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
Man. So Triss is being held as a prisoner, and they're experimenting on her frequently until finally Janine has enough of Triss not being susceptible to the experimental serums and decides she has to die. Mm-hmm. And it's this part I liked how Triss is, fucking with Janine in the simulations, and she's like, I know she's not going to kill me because I'm a riddle that she can't figure out. Mm-hmm. Like I'm the mystery that she can't crack. But then finally, Janine, to everyone's surprise, is like, nah, actually, I'm tired of you. I want to do this on someone else.
She literally is like, I'm done with your shit. It's like, because just she keeps outsmarting Janine, and I think that is the wrong move, because Janine is very much wants to be fully in control and wants to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, she can't attack Janine's ego because that's the biggest thing to her.
So I'm not surprised that Janine's finally like, you know what? I can find another Divergent, so it's fine. Just be gone.
And Ford delivered himself there, so why wouldn't she? So Triss is headed to her execution, and of all people, Peter to the rescue. Another man who in the movie, Miles Teller.
I know.
He just plays a villain so well.
He does.
Anywho, so he has a pretty brilliant plan of swapping out the death serum with a different serum that just paralyzes her. And he has some weird remote thing that affects the heart rate machine. And of course, Peter says, oh, you wouldn't understand it even if I explained it, which to me is a cop-out because it's not possible. You just didn't want to explain it. But whatever. We don't need to know. The point is she escapes with Peter and Four, and they are ready for action.
Yes, they are.
So they go back to Abnegation, and they join with the factionless and plan an attack on Erudite. But their plan is basically destroy everything, ask questions later.
Which isn't smart.
No, but it's very dauntless.
Oh, it is very dauntless. And I think that was like also like what was frustrating about like Tori and like the leadership. And it's like, you know, I feel like Triss had all these good points and ideas, but then Tori was also just seeing red because she wants revenge against Janine and Erudite. So it wouldn't have mattered regardless.
Yeah, and Triss doesn't really... I don't know if she doesn't care about convincing other people, but she doesn't really make an attempt to at all.
I feel like people don't take her serious, which is funny in not a ha-ha way, but like she's done so much for so many people that she didn't need to do. And I just think that it kind of falls on deaf ears. But I feel like Dauntless are kind of those sort of people in general. They're just very much my way or the highway.
Yeah.
So how can you lead a group of people that doesn't really want to fall in line?
Yeah,
and
it's crazy that the Dauntless specifically underestimate her because they've seen what she can do. And every time Marcus was like, oh, you're just a little girl, I was like, why doesn't she punch him in his face? Like, what is... I would have
Marcus is like the
bitch
worst.
Slapped him. Ugh, I hate him. So Triss and Four are continuing to lie to each other constantly. And Triss decides to work with Marcus behind Four's back so they can save the Erudite info on the computers in the compound. Not the compound. In the Erudite headquarters. I don't know.
More
Are they all called compounds?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I would consider it a compound.
Yeah, because they all live there. So she's pretending that she's going to stay back from the attack, which does not track with her character at all.
No. And like Four's like, oh, you've changed. You've seen the light. Like, boy, rose-colored glasses.
Yeah. And it kind of bothered me because they should have come up with something else. Like she should have had a ruse of something else she was doing instead of just staying back because she would never do that. And so instead she recruits Christina and they go with Marcus to Amity to recruit some help, which they don't really get, but whatever. Then they plan to get into the control room in Erudite and share whatever is on Janine's computer with all of the factions. So I saw so many people asking online, what would you have done if you were in Triss's position? Would you have betrayed Four and gone with Marcus or vice versa?
I think so, yeah, because I think this plan is smarter than what the other one is. Like, you should try to save the information. Even if Marcus is trying to be nefarious about it, at least you have a way to try to get it. Whereas if it's just destroyed, then you're never going to know. Like, you're never going to know. And I don't know, it just seemed... Like, I know Marcus is shady and a piece of shit, but his plan... Just because he's shady and a piece of shit doesn't mean that what he wants to do isn't the right move.
I agree that she had to do it, but I think that if I was in that situation, I would have tried to convince Four or someone else.
I agree. I think holding it back from him was stupid because they already have this loss of trust with each other, so she's just kind of digging the grave deeper.
And from what information we get in the book, I don't think Marcus had a strong enough case for Tris to betray For. Like, she didn't have any concrete info. She said she just had to decide whether she trusted Marcus. And obviously Marcus is untrustworthy.
Yeah.
So I felt like up to that point, there wasn't enough solid evidence that it was worth this betrayal. Not just of For, but of her whole faction, of everyone she'd been working with. Just, you know what I mean? Like, it was a little too flimsy. But obviously it's the right decision. I just wish that she came to it a little different. So they carry out this plan, and long story short, Tris fails because, as you said, Tori is so focused on her revenge plot that she needs to take down Janine. She won't hear any reasoning, which, I mean, I don't blame her in this moment. She's not going to listen to what Tris is saying, but Tori was never going to do anything else anyway.
No, this was her end game all along.
And she's been saying it since the day Tris met her as a complete stranger. So, like we said, Tori doesn't listen to Tris's explanation and kills Janine. And then they determine that Tris is a traitor because she was trying to help Janine. And they're not even letting her get a word in about what she was trying to save.
And like she wasn't trying to help Janine. Like, that's not even like what it was. Like, it was almost, this was actually really frustrating because they weren't even giving her an opportunity to speak. And again, if you just reflect back on everything that Tris has done over the past 2 books, like, you would try to give her the benefit of the doubt for like a millisecond. Like, just let her say what she's doing, and then...
And these are her friends.
Yeah.
They don't even, like you said, they know who she has been in the past. And obviously she would have like gone to trial or whatever, but don't you think that these friends that she's with in this room are going to listen to her more than the factionless who don't even know her? So anyway, of course, in all dystopian stories, the group that came out of the woodwork to change things for the better all of a sudden becomes the new dictators. The factionless have led the charge to take over Erudite, and now Evelyn is ready to be queen. But, as we've said several times, Tobias to the rescue as usual. He rigs the super secret computer info to play over all the monitors just before Evelyn is ready to tell her kingdom what's up. And it's a video of a woman basically saying that their society is an experiment in order to break the darkness of human nature. So they're living in a simulation.
100%. Yeah.
Which is so terrifying.
Very terrifying.
I really think it's possible.
Oh, yeah.
But we have to talk about For and Tris's relationship. And this ending is supposed to give you this feeling that For had her back all along. And he says, you know, I listened, it just took me a little longer. And then he ends up listening to what she said and saving the day. And all is well because it all worked out in the end. But like, no.
No, I didn't. That did not come across to me at all.
And we talked about this in our episode on Divergent. Their relationship does not come across in the book, in the first book or in this book. Like, they are so, it's so indicative of like a toxic, passionate relationship. Like, you would die for each other, but you won't tell each other the truth.
Yeah. And they're so young.
Yeah, and when Tris sees For hanging out with the factionless and just like joking around or being in his home in abnegation, she's like, oh wow, I really don't know anything about this man. I've known him for a couple weeks. And it's like, I just don't think that they are likable enough characters, and I don't think there's enough of a basis for you to be invested in this like endgame.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think because after like seeing the movie and like seeing like how Shaylee and Theo are together, it makes it a little bit biased to it. But I can understand like what you're saying. Like, how can you root for a couple that's really not, they're like on rocky ground to begin with.
And I completely agree. Like, in the movie, it's so different, and they really do have chemistry, and it really comes across like how he's moody and stony but would do anything for her, and how she's kind of a little bit reckless and it frustrates him. Like, that totally comes off in their performances, but from the book alone, I don't get that at all.
I actually can completely agree with that.
So it's just frustrating because I want to like them together, you know? So throughout the book, they refer to Amity and Erudite as the main or essential factions, which I feel like is kind of fucked up, even though Abnegation and Dauntless do seem like the most unrealistic and even corrupt factions. But everyone just accepts that this is true. And they're like, yeah, no one needs Abnegation and Dauntless. Anyway, so I'm Dauntless. Like, it's so weird. And if this was a real faction system, it would be created so that all factions would be equally essential, important, and influencing everything that's happening.
Well, I mean, like, realistically, Abnegation is a pointless society. Like, what...
Okay, yes, because in the first book, they say that Abnegation is so that they have the leaders from Abnegation because they're selfless and they're going to be the most honest. Look at Marcus. That's not true. So, and then Dauntless, their responsibility is security, but that's it? Like,
yeah.
It just seems
like
crazy.
There should have been more substance to what Abnegation was. And because I feel like you could have combined Amity and Abnegation into one faction, because I feel like they're very similar. And like Amity is very much like peace driven, so that's pretty much what Abnegation is, just a little bit more plain Jane. So why not just kind of put them together, or make one faction but like two separate compounds?
Yeah, and even like Candor is just about telling the truth.
Yeah.
I feel like that could have be in an umbrella under Erudite.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, the faction system is not solid enough to build this world on.
Yeah, but then again, it is a simulation.
Which means that so this is taking place in like Chicago. That means that the other simulation taking place in New York at the same time probably has different factions with different balances. Ugh, stop. I'm gonna have an existential crisis.
I've been for days. Every day.
Welcome to 2025.
It's been a year.
So when Four attacks Marcus in front of everyone, the obvious reason is to show that he's no longer scared of him because he's getting...
like, ridiculed.
Yeah, he's getting called out because he said that he changed factions to escape his abusive father.
Yeah, this was a dumb part of the book. I didn't like this part.
Yeah, because how could you bully him for that? I don't know. Whatever. So, regardless, the obvious reason that he does that is to show that he's no longer scared of Marcus. But Triss keeps saying over and over that it was more calculated and there's a deeper reason that he did it. What is the reason?
I don't know.
I'm like trying to figure it out. I'm like, Triss, just tell us.
I'm like trying to prove that he's better than him, but then that really wouldn't make him better than him, because being better than him would be not laying his hands on him. I don't know.
Yeah, I think she kind of hinted at the fact that Evelyn wanted Four to lead the Dauntless, so he would have to get their respect back.
Okay, maybe that's what it is.
So that's probably it, but it wasn't, like, it didn't seem as obvious as she made it sound.
But also, like, how disgusting is that? Like, that's what you have to do to gain, like, your peers' respect.
And
because you're a wuss, because you try to escape your abusive father to come to, like, this new faction, which in reality, like, that should be something that should be, like, a prideful thing, because he was strong enough to leave an abusive situation and then, like, blossomed into, like, this wonderful, strong person in Dauntless to become, like, this leader trope. So it,
and it's also...
It's teen angst, so I get it, but...
But he also, he left his abusive father. It's not like he had siblings that were then getting abused because he left.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's not like Marcus was attacking other people because Four left. But it kind of just shows this issue with the Dauntless.
Yeah.
That they see that as something they should respect. That Four beat up an old dude.
Yeah. Yeah, the Dauntless system isn't wonderful either.
Yeah. And then the fact that they just, like, kick you out when you're old.
Yeah.
Not even that old, just, like, not...
fit.
Like, middle-aged.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is there anything else we need to discuss?
I forgot about the Caleb twist. That he was, like, the person that was feeding the information to, like, Janine. It was kind of, like, her secret right-hand man. And then it was... I remember, like in the movie, and I didn't watch it, so, like, I can't remember. But I was so, like, taken aback by that in the book, because I completely fucking forgot.
I thought I had this in my notes, and now you just brought it up. Oh my gosh. Yes. This is a very big part of the book, but it's kind of not a big part of the book.
No, it's like, not, because it
should
like,
be.
You know, because you kind of have, like, this whole thing in the beginning of the book where you have these moments between Caleb and Triss, and, like, it finally feels like Triss has come to terms of who she is and who Caleb is, and you can kind of get, like, this underlying hope that they can kind of have a relationship, whereas they didn't really have one before, and that they can accept that they are who they are. And then you, like, turn it around to where Caleb is kind of like this conniving asshole that was selling out his own sister for his faction. And it shows you that blood is not always the first choice. It's power is the first choice in this scenario. Whereas where Triss would probably take a bullet for Caleb is very much, well, that's not going to benefit me, so why would I do it?
And it's just so crazy because even though we don't really get too much from him in the beginning, it just, like you said, it feels like they might be able to have a relationship. It's, like, awkward at first, but then they are talking a little more, and she's honest with him about her results, because she's like, oh, this is my only family left. This is the only person I could trust.
Exactly. And then it's like when the twist is revealed, and he's like, well, you wouldn't understand. And it's just like, what do you mean? Like, what is so important about this that, like, I almost wish that we had more, that there was and it might happen in the third book, and I just don't remember. So I might come back to this and say, like, never mind, now I get it. But, like, there's just so much that could have been said, more detail about, like, why he was doing what he was doing, because there really was no justifiable reason at this point.
And he knows that she's not just some numb-minded Dauntless. Like, he knows that she has an aptitude for erudite, and she's smart, and she understands things that are going on. So why did he think that she wouldn't understand when he could have just been honest with her? I don't know. I agree. I felt like it was totally glossed over. And even the simple fact of, okay, that's the last family member I had. She's sad about it for a little bit, and then obviously things just keep happening. There's just, like, too much action.
There's something new every 5 minutes.
And when there's not action going on, it's Triss thinking about Will or her parents.
Spiraling into her, like, negative rabbit hole.
Yeah, but I totally forgot about that. It's such a big part, because he's literally the reason that Janine has all this extra information and can come up with all these updated serums and why she's trying all of these new things.
Yeah.
I will say I liked in the book when they're kind of, like, going over the results of the simulations on Triss, and Janine is basically, like, leading a classroom. And people are, like, raising their hands, and she's like, elaborate, more specific. I'm like, she's literally this bloodthirsty monster.
Yeah.
But she's just out for some more knowledge.
100%.
She's a complex character that I would like for there to be a book from her POV.
Yeah, because like I feel like, again, she's kind of like a character. There wasn't much of her in this book, which, again, I didn't remember. And then I was surprised that her death was so swift, and I forgot about that as well. And I feel like she is such an important character in this book, and her storyline was kind of cut short.
Yeah, I definitely think
like
that
we
the
could
death
have used
was
we
too
could
quick.
have used less Triss self-deprecating and more backstory of Janine's like terrible demeanor.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like you said, it's so hard to read this without being influenced by the movie because, like, obviously I'm like, Kate Winslet, she's a goddess, but it just doesn't really, we don't get enough in the book. I want more because I'm fascinated by her. All right. Anything else you want to discuss?
No.
I'm glad you brought up the Caleb thing. I totally forgot. All right. So our rating scale is secretly undead family members.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's an obscure one. How many secretly undead family members did you give Insurgent?
When I looked at my rating, I gave it 3.5, and upon more speculation, I think I'm just going to do a solid 3. But I think that the reason why I did the 3.5 is how I, because it's how I am. I feel a certain way. What?
Because of Theo James.
Yeah, probably. I feel a certain way after I finish a book, and it's how I ever feel in that moment. And then when I reflect back on things, I'm like, oh wait, you know what? Maybe actually not. So I'm gonna go with a 3 secretly undead family members. Like, it gave you a little. This was definitely like a filler book. There really wasn't too much depth to the story. It, I think, builds it up to what the finale of the story is going to be. So, which is like so different because like Catching Fire was like my favorite in the Hunger Games. So this is like such a stark difference, but it's almost similar.
It's like Shadow and Bone.
I was just going to say it's so similar to Siege and Storm, which was the second one, right? Siege and Storm?
Yes.
And
that, it made me think of that when you said Triss in this book becomes unlikable, because that's how I felt in the second Shadow and Bone. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, whereas like I feel like Hunger Games stayed on a really straight and narrow, strong storyline. I do, when we read it, I'll remember, but I think Mockingjay was like way too long, and I think there was a lot of like pointless stuff in Mockingjay. But like, yeah, like this one wasn't there wasn't anything. Like there really was no new information. There was no big surprises aside from like Caleb and Peter becoming like this unlikely hero, and like you actually now like Peter, whereas he was kind of like the worst human being. Although I did love the scene with him and Ed, the guy that he like gave he stabbed in the eye with like the eye patch, and he's like, fuck your shit up, and he's like, ooh. So
like, oh no.
I know. But yeah, it wasn't really no substance. The whole Triss was annoying, but also like such a strong character. It's like hard to like, you like want to be mad at her, but then she does like these things. You're like, okay, well, she's the only one that has a fucking brain apparently in this book. So, and it's 4 is like also annoying because he's like so back and forth, and he's very hypocritical. I definitely like movie 4 over book 4. And
he's so he's trying to be controlling in the book, even though Triss is like, I will not be controlled.
Yeah, so it's like, it wasn't great, wasn't terrible, because like there was a lot of important parts that like we need in order to move forward in the series, but it really it didn't have any wow factors.
Yeah, I agree. It feels so much like a bridge between Divergent and Allegiant. And I completely understand why it was necessary, but that didn't make it any more interesting.
Yeah.
Because it just felt like at the end of this book, so much had happened, but not much had really happened. So I gave this 2.5 secretly undead family members. The half is probably like a child or a cousin or something. Anyway.
Second removed.
Yeah. Cousin by marriage. I did obviously not remember this book because I just thought that I loved the whole series as a whole.
No, literally, I told told like when we were texting, I was like, I don't remember this. I was like reading this book, and I'm like, wow, I don't remember any of this.
Mm-hmm.
But like I know that I loved the last one. Like I know that I loved how it ended. I love how this story ends. But I was like, wow, this book was not anything.
Well, I do know that for Allegiant, we have to watch the movie because I don't remember the ending, but I know that the ending in the movie is different than the ending in the book.
Yeah, and I remember that too, so we'll have to do the same.
Yeah, we'll have to watch it for that one.
And I am gonna I probably will rent Insurgent because now I need to get my.
No, in a month it's going to be streaming somewhere.
You're right. I'll wait.
Just wait a month.
I'll wait a month.
We'll talk about it on our bookish banter when we finally watch it.
Exactly.
Because I want to watch it.
I do too. I just wish that it wasn't going to cost me money.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, I could use that $3 for a coffee, so.
We are fully booked and caffeinated.
It's true.
We spend money on books, but not movies.
Ooh, it's part of it's for the cause.
It's all for the cause. All right. Well, that's all we have for you today. If you like what you heard, please make sure to follow, subscribe, and rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you use. If you have any book recommendations or questions for us, you can email us at fullybookedcalfpod@gmail.com. Also, be sure to follow us on still TikTok.
Still here.
Although we're iffy about it. But TikTok and Instagram at fullybookedcalfpod to see our upcoming reads. Thanks for checking us out. And remember,
if you need us, we're fully booked.
Bye.